in certain realms if you don't have a standardized definition.
Well, I got to respectfully disagree, because law, as you know as well as I do, okay, we're both lawyers. A good lawyer makes a success out of a case where it falls into gray, because law is not black and white. Law changes every day of the week. You know it and I do it. How the application takes place. I mean, I can talk about cases all day long. I had a father, for example, that was accused of sexually abusing his daughter. No physical evidence, never did it. What happened was the father found his 14-year-old daughter having sex, and he got upset. So retaliation takes place. Will that happen? Sure. Is it going to happen? Sure. But, you know, ultimately, I have faith in the fact that truth is going to surface sooner or later, and that's why you have the law. And I have no problem with, you know, I don't think law is black and white. It just isn't.
I agree with you, Mr. DeFruscia, but the issue was whether the whole process is going to be abused, or the potential to be abused, which Mr. Denuncio was talking about. I think without some kind of standardized definition of what constitutes actual bullying and concrete examples, I think that the potential to abuse it and to put 8, 9, 10-year-olds over in the juvenile court
I'm a little
exists.
older than both of you guys, but let's bring that down to reality for a second, can we? When you start talking about, you know, the fact of abuse, before women had the right to vote, did you hear what they said? She doesn't have the intelligence to do it. Before blacks had the right, in going with Brown versus the Board of Education, separate but equal was okay for 100 years before that time. Of course that happens, and this is why law is the process of taking into consideration what is happening at that particular stage of time in anybody's life. So I don't see that. Give it a chance, for God's sakes.
My fear
Give it a chance to see how it works. And if it doesn't work right, then we'll fix it.
My fear is, in the past, 2 kids were on a school bus, they get into a fist fight over whose bike is faster than the other. Now, today, they're charged with assault and battery, where in the past it was just a schoolyard fight.
But it is an assault and battery. Now come on. It's not a bully.
This
You're
is not a
saying
natural progression like you're talking about. You're talking about a natural society progression.
I think
it is.
And
we all get better as a society. I see this going backwards, if anything. The police, the legal system, the schools in general in the United States do a really good job of handling bullies. We're having a knee-jerk reaction to one incident where some poor young lady committed suicide over being bullied, not even in the school environment, over the internet, and we don't even know if that's really why she committed the suicide. I don't want to second guess. I feel bad for their parents. It's a horrible situation. But what statistics are we using saying that bullying is causing death in our schools? Bill Gates, excuse me one second. Bill Gates attributes, and he said this in an interview, attributes his success to being bullied.
Well, that's Bill Gates, and I wish I had his billions. But the reality is, you're jumping to a conclusion, which, in all due respect to what you're saying,
absolutely,
I can't buy your conclusion. Okay? And the reason I can't is simply put, if there wasn't a need. Now, when you look at legislation, and I don't mind telling you, both in Mass and New Hampshire, because having served in both, you look at legislation in 3 ways. You say, 1, is there a need? Do we need to make a change? 2, how are we going to get there? 3, what's it going to cost? So the first criteria is, do you have a need? Obviously, and you know as well as I do, in any legislative process, you have committee hearings, you have witnesses that show up, there's testimony that's taken, and the committee makes a decision. Then it goes up, if it's a House bill, before the full House. Then the House has another hearing. Then it's debated again. Then it goes through the Senate. Then it's debated again. Then it goes to the governor. Then it's debated again. And then you have the veto. So I don't think it's a rush to judgment. I mean, the whole process says that.
There's a lot of politics involved here. For lack of a better term, I mean, we're legislating common sense is what it looks like. There's a lot of good teachers out there. There's a lot of good educators with common sense. They deal with these situations every single day. Because we have a few bad teachers or educators in the system, we need to, instead of firing these people, we need to legislate common sense is what's happening. It's very difficult to fire a teacher or a principal. The one that was involved in that child's suicide, they proved that she did go to the educator several times for help. I would probably guarantee that there's a lawsuit involved there somewhere.
Well, can I ask you a question?
And that's what's going to happen if they don't kick it
Are you
up.
saying there's no need to legislate bullying? Is that what you're saying? I mean, I just want to make sure I
I'm
got it right.
saying I think it should have been done in
I
a
got a
different
fly
way.
attacking me.
I'm saying it should have been done in a different way. Do I agree with bullying? Absolutely not. Do I think that people should be picked on in the schoolyards? Absolutely not. There's some really mean kids
Do you
out there,
think
and it's not good to be on the receiving end of that.
But do you think we don't need legislation? That's my only question.
Yeah, I'll answer that real simply. I don't think we need this legislation, no.
So
I think
if
it's
you're-
bad legislation.
So if you're elected next year, you can change the law?
I will work to change it, yes. That's part of my platform. I will try to.
So you're publicly stating right now, if you're elected, this in your state bid for
Yes.
state representative, you will fight to reform the actual bully law the way it's written right now?
I will work to either make it better or to do away with it under the form that it's under, correct.
Like that.
And I wish you luck as a freshman.
Thank you, sir.
I don't mind telling you.
No, I appreciate your advice. I respect
it.
you.
It takes 10 years in the legislative process to get something really productively done.
That's unfortunate, isn't it?
It is unfortunate,
Yes.
but that's just the way it is. What did Jimmy Carter say? Life isn't fair.
So, bullying in school will follow a student after school in the school bus, on the internet, Facebook, MySpace, and everything. What penalties do they face? What's the punishment?
Well, again, it depends on how far it goes, what is defined as, and what route it takes. I mean, it could be considered criminal. Depending on the age of the child, it could be considered juvenile matters if the child's under the age. It may be handled, quote-unquote, in-house, within the school. It may be reported and possible law enforcement officials review it and say, we don't think it rises to the level. I mean, you always have the situations that are concrete and you know it is a case of bullying, it's clear-cut, but then you have the gray areas. That's why I think that there needs to be a little bit more standardization as far as defining what bullying is and giving kind of a more defined route rather than leaving it up to each individual school system.
I
I personally think that there are circumstances where the legislation that has been enacted is necessary. So I agree that there should be legislation regarding bullying. I think it needs to be tightened up. I think it needs to be better defined. I think it needs to be standardized.
Hector, could I go through you to ask a question?
Yes, go ahead.
We missed a little part here. If it becomes criminal and it's a misdemeanor, they have a right to a clerk's hearing. So nobody gets arrested. So let's get that straight. Okay. Now, the bullying law, is it a misdemeanor or a felony? Before it gets to that stage. So in the criminal process, okay, just so we're talking all the same language here. In the criminal process, if you, let's say hypothetically, you and I go outside and we get into a fist fight, and nobody sees us. A policeman is not there, okay? You can now bring a complaint against me, I can bring one against you. Neither one of us is going to get arrested unless I have something in my hand, like a knife or something else that's a dangerous weapon. We now go to a clerk's hearing. Let's not forget that. And the clerk, that's a misdemeanor. The clerk now makes the determination. Magic words, probable cause. So before that person gets into court at all, not only do you have the process within the statute, but you also have the process that says there's probable cause to say that a crime was committed. So I think you have a lot of protections within the law, because I don't look at one piece of law as being an island. It comes together. It all goes together. It's like any other misdemeanor or a felony, if it goes that far.
You're right when you're talking about when you're talking about adults. I agree with you 1,000%. We're talking about children in the schoolyard at any given time in any schoolyard in America. There's thousands of crimes being committed that really aren't crimes because they're little kids. Are they hitting each other and punching each other in the arms? Yes. Is that assault? Yes. There's crimes that are happening on a regular basis in the schoolyard that we don't make crimes because they're children. Do we want to give 10, 11, 12-year-olds criminal records for the rest of their lives over silly matters that could potentially, we agreed this could potentially happen.
You're really stretching it.
You know,
and I
could see it
respectfully
happen.
disagree.
There was a young lad who was just in the news recently. He was charged with the possession of child pornography because somebody texted him. He's 12 years old. They texted him a picture of another naked 12-year-old. He's charged with possession of child pornography, has to potentially register as a sex offender. Thank God the criminal justice system saw it wisely enough to drop the charges, but he did end up in court with this.
So justice
This is what
prevailed.
happened. Justice did prevail in that case.
Prevailed,
In
fairness
that
took
case, it did,
place.
sir. Yes,
A
you're right.
12-year-old kid said, "Wise up,
He got
kid."
dragged through the system at 12 years old. He's scarred. He's charged as a sex offender at 12 years old. This is what can
Well,
potentially
maybe the
happen. This
police
is the problems
officer,
I have
maybe the
with this.
police officer that did the charging, maybe he should be examined.
The must
as to
and
his
shall came in
capacity.
again. Must and shall. The parent of the daughter that was the naked picture that sent it to him filed the complaint, and he must and shall.
Must and shall. It
Arrest or charge.
Still has to go through a
police have
clerk's
different
hearing.
But
rules.
the problem is, it's making kids grow up that much faster
Exactly.
and
This is
face
where I'm going.
serious adult circumstances at a young,
A
impressionable
10-year-old
age.
in a clerk's hearing is different than me and you, sir, in a clerk's hearing. We're adults, we could handle this. A 10 or 12-year-old, they're losing their youth over these kinds of things.
Like in the olden days when we played house, for example, you'd get in trouble.
Well, doctor, maybe.
All right.
Well, let me just say, we are running out of time. I'd like to continue. Do you guys mind sticking around for another episode and follow and pick this up again? I mean, this is going really good here. I want to remind everyone, if you have a question that you want to ask, send us an email, the Hector Montalvo Show at yahoo.com. You can also visit us at the website, behindthescenes.weebly.com. Attorney Timmons, why don't you give us a quick minute of your contact information if someone is being bullied out there and they want legal representation? How do they reach you?
Sure, my office is in Lawrence, located at 12 Pemberton Way. My phone number is 978-688-8834. And if you want to email me, it's detlaw@verizon.net. Thank you.
Mr. D'Annunzio, you stated that if you're elected, you will work to reform that particular bill to make it better. How can people visit your website, donate to your campaign, or get more information in regards to your plan?
You can find me at www.denuccio.com. I'm also on Facebook. My phone number is area code 978-360-1298. Call anytime, please. Thank you.
And Tony, why don't you give us your contact information?
978-687-1777, that easy.
And your address, your local here in Methuen?
Methuen, Massachusetts, and Lawrence, and it's www.defrucialaw.com.
Okay, for my guests here at Behind the Scenes, for all the crew members at MCTV, I'm your host, Hector Montalvo. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned so we go behind the scenes and bring you part 2 of bullying.